Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Ready to explore how to seriously amp up your team's performance?
Always ready for that.
Awesome. So we've got this great article by Carrie Ann Cassidy you sent us. How can coaches improve team performance? 10 proven strategies. Let's unpack it.
This is good to me.
Perfect. So the article kicks off with some pretty eye-opening stats. Cassidy mentions that organizations that have a strong coaching culture actually see about 13% stronger business results.
Yeah, and that's not all. A whopping 86% of companies end up recouping their investment in coaching.
Those numbers definitely make you sit up and take notice. But the big question is, why is coaching such a game changer? What's the secret sauce behind these impressive results?
Well, Cassidy highlights the ability of coaching to get everyone on the same page with super clear goals. Imagine an orchestra, each instrument, each musician, all working together in perfect harmony to create this incredible masterpiece.
I love that analogy. It's like everyone's suddenly playing from the same sheet music and the performance becomes so much more powerful.
Exactly. And that shared sense of purpose, that feeling of everyone working together towards a common goal, that's where the magic happens.
But even the most talented orchestra needs a conductor, right? So how does Cassidy see the role of the coach in all of this?
Right. She emphasizes that effective coaching isn't just about setting goals. It's also about building a culture of open communication and trust within the team. She uses Pixar as a great example. They're famous for their amazing collaborative storytelling process. But even they face challenges with different departments becoming isolated, almost like working in silos.
Ah, silos, those invisible walls that can really stifle creativity and innovation. How do Pixar break down those barriers?
They introduced what they called brain trust meetings. Basically, it's an open forum where anyone, regardless of their position or department, can share ideas and feedback.
It's like a brainstorming session where the hierarchy fades away and the best ideas rise to the top. I bet that shift in communication had a ripple effect across their entire creative process.
Absolutely. It fostered a culture of trust and mutual respect, which is essential for effective teamwork. When team members feel safe to share their thoughts and ideas without being judged, they're more likely to take risks, be innovative, and ultimately perform at their best.
It sounds like Pixar created a fertile ground for creative collaboration. And that perfectly illustrates Cassidy's point about the power of communication and trust in boosting team performance.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears a bit and dive into one of the biggest hurdles many teams face: a lack of clear goals. Cassidy uses Sir Dave Brailsford and his leadership of British cycling as a really interesting example.
Yes, this is where the idea of marginal gains comes into play. Brailsford believed in breaking down every aspect of cycling performance into the smallest possible components and then making tiny incremental improvements in each area.
So instead of aiming for one giant leap forward, it's about taking a series of small strategic steps. It sounds almost counterintuitive, but I can see how this approach could build momentum and create a culture of continuous improvement. How does Cassidy suggest applying this marginal gain strategy to a team setting?
She's a big advocate for setting SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Instead of vague objectives, each goal needs to be clearly defined with a concrete plan for achieving it. This creates a roadmap for progress.
Makes sense. It gives the team a way to track their wins, celebrate milestones, and stay motivated along the way. It sounds like a solid recipe for success, but it also requires a high level of discipline and commitment from everyone involved. So now let's move on to Cassidy's next challenge, which is another common pitfall: insufficient feedback.
And here, Cassidy brings in Microsoft and their CEO, Satya Nadella. He recognized that their traditional system of annual performance reviews just wasn't cutting it when it came to fostering growth and development. It was too infrequent, too formal, and often focused on past performance rather than future potential.
A classic case of too little too late.
Yeah.
So how did Nadella shake things up at Microsoft?
He implemented a system of real-time coaching and growth conversations. Instead of waiting for an annual review, managers are now encouraged to give regular feedback, both positive and constructive, in the flow of work.
What's really interesting here is that shift from a rigid top-down evaluation process to a more dynamic and collaborative approach. It emphasizes growth and development rather than judgment and criticism, which can be incredibly empowering for employees.
Absolutely. And this continuous feedback loop makes it possible to make real-time adjustments, which really helps foster a culture of learning and improvement.
That's a game changer. It creates an environment where feedback is seen as a valuable tool for growth and development, rather than something to be feared.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another challenge: negative team culture. We've all heard those horror stories about companies with cutthroat environments where collaboration is non-existent and morale is at an all-time low.
Yeah, those are tough situations. To address this, Cassidy brings in Tony Hsieh, the former CEO of Zappos.
Ah, Zappos. They're famous for their exceptional company culture.
Exactly. Hsieh understood that culture wasn't something that just happened organically. It needed to be actively cultivated and nurtured. He focused on getting everyone aligned around shared values, celebrating team achievements, and fostering a sense of community in the workplace.
It sounds like he created a culture where people felt valued, appreciated, and genuinely connected to the company's mission. How does Cassidy tie this example back to the power of coaching?
Well, she stresses that leaders need to be more than just managers. They need to be coaches who inspire and empower their teams. This involves setting clear expectations, providing guidance and support, recognizing and celebrating successes, and fostering a sense of belonging within the team.
It's about shifting from a purely transactional leadership style to a more transformational approach,
Right.
where the focus is on nurturing growth, development, and a shared sense of purpose. And I think this perfectly sets the stage for our next segment, where we'll delve deeper into Cassidy's remaining challenges and explore how coaching can address those specific hurdles. But first, let's quickly recap what we've covered so far. We started by looking at those impressive statistics that show the real return on investment of coaching.
Right.
Then we dove into how important clear goal setting, open communication, and trust are in building high-performing teams.
And we can't forget those fascinating real-world examples.
Absolutely. We explored how Pixar used brain trust meetings to break down silos and boost collaboration, and how Microsoft moved away from traditional annual reviews and implemented real-time coaching and growth conversations.
Really interesting stuff.
For sure. And finally, we talked about the power of a positive team culture, using Zappos as a shining example of how leadership can create a truly thriving and supportive work environment. So, stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll continue to explore Carrie Ann Cassidy's insights and uncover even more strategies for using the power of coaching to transform your team's performance. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing to explore Carrie Ann Cassidy's article, How Can Coaches Improve Team Performance? 10 Proven Strategies. And I think one of the most interesting questions is, who should actually be the coach? Should it be an external expert or someone from within the team?
Cassidy dives into the pros and cons of both internal and external coaching. So let's start with the manager as coach model. The big plus here is familiarity, right? Managers already know the team dynamics, the strengths of each person, the company culture.
It makes total sense. They're already in the trenches, seeing what works and what doesn't. Plus, using someone already on the team has got to be easier on the budget.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing there are some potential downsides too.
For sure. Cassidy talks about the risk of bias. Managers might already have opinions about team members or personal relationships that could, cloud their judgment. And you can't forget about the power dynamic. Being the boss and the coach is a tough balancing act.
Yeah, I could see that. Some people might hesitate to be totally honest if their manager is the one evaluating their performance.
Right.
It's like wearing two hats at once.
Exactly.
So what about bringing in a coach from outside? What are the advantages there?
Objectivity is huge. They're not part of the company hierarchy, so they can offer fresh perspectives and, unbiased assessments. Plus, they often have specific skills and experience that you might not find within the company. And maybe most importantly, it's a safe, confidential space.
I can see how that neutrality could be invaluable, especially when dealing with sensitive topics or conflicts between people.
Right.
It allows for honesty and vulnerability that might be harder to achieve with your direct supervisor.
Exactly.
But are there any drawbacks to external coaching?
Cassidy points out that it takes time for an outside coach to really grasp the company culture and the team's dynamics. They might miss subtle things that an internal coach would pick up on right away. And scheduling can be tricky. Coordinating sessions with someone external could disrupt the flow of the coaching relationship.
So both internal and external coaching have their pros and cons. It's about finding what works best for the team and their specific situation. What's Cassidy's take on all of this?
She thinks that the best coaches are often the team's own managers, but she emphasizes that those managers need proper training and coaching skills.
It's about equipping leaders with the tools and techniques they need to guide, mentor, and support their team members.
Right, and create stronger, more self-sufficient teams.
Does Cassidy give any real-world examples of companies that have done this well?
She talks about Google's Project Oxygen, which we mentioned earlier. Their research found that the best managers were those who excelled at coaching. And those managers saw huge improvements in team performance, employee satisfaction, the whole 9 yards.
So Google's findings support the idea that good coaching leads to real, measurable results, was the other example Cassidy gives.
She brings up Zappos again. Their company culture, which really values coaching and leadership development, has helped them become known for their awesome customer service and employee satisfaction. They're proof that investing in coaching pays off.
It's clear that coaching is more than just a buzzword. It's a strategic way to take teams and organizations to the next level. Now, Cassidy gets real about the challenges teams face, outlining 10 common problems and suggesting coaching-based solutions for each. Let's look at a few more, starting with a lack of mental training.
This is an interesting one. Cassidy uses the Seattle Seahawks as an example. They started using mindfulness training to help their team stay resilient and focused, especially under pressure.
It's about recognizing that mental toughness is just as important as physical strength and skill. Right.
Exactly.
So it's about giving teams the tools to deal with challenges, manage stress, and prevent burnout. It's looking at the whole picture, the well-being of the individual and the team. How does Cassidy suggest putting this kind of mental training into practice?
She recommends incorporating stress management techniques and making sure people have a good work-life balance. Things like mindfulness exercises, breathing techniques, or just encouraging people to take breaks during the day.
I like that Cassidy approaches these challenges with a focus on empowerment and support. It's about making the work environment a place where people can thrive, not just survive.
Right.
Let's tackle another big one, lack of trust. Cassidy talks about Netflix and their freedom and responsibility framework. What's the story there?
Netflix gives their employees a lot of autonomy and trusts them to make decisions. This approach has led to some amazing innovations and really high employee engagement. When people feel trusted, they're more likely to take ownership, be creative, and deliver great results.
It's about giving people the power to do their best work without feeling micromanaged. But that kind of trust requires a shift in thinking, both for leaders and team members. How does Cassidy suggest building that foundation of trust?
Transparency, consistency, and follow-through are key. Leaders have to be open and honest with their team, do what they say they'll do, and always keep their promises.
It's about creating a culture of accountability and respect, where actions matter more than words. Trust is something you earn through consistent behavior and a genuine commitment to supporting the team. Now let's move on to Cassidy's 7th challenge, ineffective leadership.
Cassidy brings up Microsoft again, focusing on their transformation under Satya Nadella. He encouraged a move away from a really rigid top-down leadership style to a more collaborative and empowering one. Managers were coached to have a growth mindset, being open to learning, being adaptable, and always striving to improve.
It's about changing leaders from commanders to coaches, which is a really interesting shift in perspective. It's about moving away from control and toward empowerment. How does Cassidy suggest making this transition from commander to coach?
She says investing in leadership development programs that focus on coaching skills is essential. It's about giving leaders the right tools and techniques to guide, mentor, and support their team members.
It's about helping them become more engaged, self-directed, and high-performing.
Exactly.
Now, on to the 8th challenge, role ambiguity.
Cassidy uses the Ritz-Carlton as an example here. They're great at giving employees the power to deliver amazing guest experiences. They clearly define roles and responsibilities, but they still allow for flexibility in their approach.
So it's finding that balance between clarity and autonomy, giving people the freedom to excel within a well-defined structure. What's the key takeaway for leaders?
Cassidy says it's simple. Clearly define what each team member's role is and what they're responsible for. This gets rid of confusion, makes people accountable, and helps everyone understand their part in achieving team goals.
Makes sense. Clarity is essential for a smooth workflow. Now, let's move on to the 9th challenge, inadequate resources.
Cassidy highlights Southwest Airlines, a company that's known for its commitment to providing employees with the tools, training, and support they need to succeed. Their investment in coaching has consistently resulted in high customer service ratings and a really strong company culture.
That's not surprising. If you want your team to do their best, you need to set them up for success by giving them what they need. It's about creating an environment where people feel supported and empowered to shine.
Absolutely.
Now for the 10th and final challenge, resistance to change.
Change is tough, especially at work. Cassidy tells the story of Adobe and how they successfully switched to a system of continuous feedback. They replaced annual reviews with real-time coaching, which helped improve adaptability and performance. But this change required a major shift in mindset.
So how did Adobe overcome that resistance and make the change happen?
Cassidy emphasizes the importance of communication and involvement. Leaders need to clearly explain why the change is happening, what the benefits will be, and how it will affect the team.
So it's not just about telling people what to do, it's about getting them on board with the why behind it.
Exactly. And involving employees in the process is crucial.
Right. When people understand the reasons for the change and feel like they have a voice, they're much more likely to embrace it.
Absolutely. It's about creating a sense of shared ownership, not just imposing change from the top down. This has been really insightful. We've covered so much. But before we wrap up part two, let's touch on one more critical aspect: the qualities that make a coach truly effective.
Great idea. What does Cassidy say about the traits of a great coach? Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Carrie Ann Cassidy's article and her insights on how coaching can truly transform team performance.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey through these 10 common team challenges, hasn't it?
It really has.
From communication breakdowns to lack of trust to not having enough resources and then resisting change.
It's amazing how Cassidy highlights how powerful coaching can be to overcome all these hurdles and really help a team reach their full potential. What I find really insightful is how she emphasizes that coaching isn't just about hitting those targets and increasing productivity.
Yeah, it's more than that.
It's about creating a team environment where everyone feels supported and empowered and motivated to grow, both personally and professionally.
It's about creating that sense of psychological safety we talked about, where people feel comfortable taking risks and sharing their ideas, even making mistakes, knowing they'll get support and guidance and not judgment or criticism.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of learning and continuous improvement, where feedback is seen as a positive thing and challenges are seen as opportunities for growth. And that brings us to those 5 key qualities of a great coach that Cassidy outlines so well.
Right.
Empathy, effective communication, adaptability, integrity, and continuous learning. She sees these as the cornerstones of successful coaching.
And those qualities go beyond just having technical expertise, you know? They're about building real connections, creating trust, and making people feel seen, heard, and valued.
I can picture a coach who really embodies empathy, able to truly understand each team member, connect with their needs and perspectives.
Yeah.
Someone who can create that safe space where people can be vulnerable and communicate openly.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about how important effective communication is. A good coach can explain expectations clearly,
Right.
give constructive feedback in a supportive and empowering way, and make sure everyone on the team has a chance to speak and be heard.
It's about being a good listener, asking insightful questions, delivering feedback in a way that inspires growth and action, and not defensiveness or pushback.
Exactly. And then there's adaptability. A great coach knows there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
They adjust their coaching style to fit the needs and preferences of each person, offering personalized guidance and being flexible in how they communicate.
It's about meeting people where they are, recognizing their individual strengths and challenges,
Right.
and tailoring their approach to fit.
Uh,
Okay, let's talk about integrity.
A coach with integrity builds trust and credibility within the team. They're reliable, they do what they say they'll do, and their actions always match their words and values.
It's about walking the talk, demonstrating those behaviors you expect from the team, and that authenticity creates a culture of accountability where everyone feels empowered to hold themselves and others to a higher standard.
Exactly. And lastly, there's continuous learning. A great coach is always learning and growing. They're always looking for new knowledge, staying up to date with industry trends, and trying to improve their skills.
That makes so much sense. The work world is constantly changing.
Right.
And a coach who embraces lifelong learning can guide their team through those changes more effectively, help team members adapt to new technologies, develop new skills, and stay ahead of the curve in an ever-evolving world.
It's about being a role model for growth and adaptability, showing the team that learning is a continuous journey. When you think about the impact coaching can have on team culture and dynamics, it's clear that coaching can be a real catalyst for positive change.
Absolutely. When it's done well, coaching can transform a group of individuals into a strong, cohesive team, working together toward a common goal.
It can create a culture of collaboration where people feel comfortable sharing ideas and supporting each other. And it can improve morale and engagement, leading to a more positive and productive environment.
And we can't forget the impact on individual growth. Coaching empowers team members to develop their skills, figure out their strengths, and reach their full potential. It creates a culture of continuous learning and development where everyone feels valued and invested in their own growth. It's pretty incredible to think about the ripple effect coaching can have, from boosting individual performance to improving team dynamics and ultimately creating a more successful and positive organizational culture.
It really is.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Carrie Ann Cassidy's insights, we want to leave you with a question to think about, something to reflect on based on everything we've discussed about your own leadership style and your team's unique challenges.
Think about the biggest challenge your team is facing right now. Which of Cassidy's coaching solutions really resonates with you? What's one small step you could take today to put that solution into action and start creating positive change within your team?
Remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So go out there, embrace the power of coaching, and watch your team soar. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.